The Nissan Leaf is one of the cheapest used EVs you can buy in the US today. Do I regret my decision buying one? And why am I holding a steering wheel? And why is there a falafel truck parked behind me? Well, I'll answer two of those questions in this video, and I'm going to go inside because it's kind of hot today. I should clarify, the Nissan Leaf is the cheapest practical used EV you can buy in the US that could conceivably go on a road trip here or there. But the price comes with some downsides, like the batteries don't have cooling, it uses a weird fast charge connector that requires one of these to use most places, and interior space isn't quite generous. But to me, this thing's amazing. Now this is coming from someone who owned a used minivan, a used Oldsmobile, and a used Toyota Camry. And that Camry was an '07. Back then, I thought anti-lock brakes were pretty cool technology. Now, this thing can steer itself on the highway, it has a backup camera, and it has CarPlay. It's pretty convenient. But I also don't like a lot of things. Like, they have an app, which is junk, but there's also no way I can hack into the car myself outside of getting some data off the car with this OBD2 adapter and a third-party app. It also has things that I just don't understand, like a heated steering wheel. Here in St. Louis, I don't think I've ever said, you know what, it's cold. I want to take my gloves off and hold on to a hot steering wheel in the winter. But there are many times during the summer I've wanted to not burn my fingers on the thing. Why don't they make cooled steering wheels? Anyway, in this video, I'm going to go over my experience buying an EV, or electric vehicle. This is something I've been wanting to do for ages, so I put a lot of thought into this purchase. And I have a lot more data in my GitHub repo about this car, so I'll link to that in the description. This video is not sponsored, and I bought everything you see in it, including a steering wheel and this $1,000 charging port adapter. Why? Well, let's dive in. I bought this Leaf from a dealership in kind of an almost rural part of Illinois. It's definitely not near a city like St. Louis. And they didn't seem to really be Leaf specialists, and they probably don't sell that many EVs every year. And when I test drove it, it only had like 25 miles on it. Now, I live like 30 to 40 miles away from this dealership, so that was going to be a problem. So I asked them while we were doing the financing, hey, can you plug this in to charge? Because I need at least like 50 or 60 miles to be comfortable. So by the time that we left the dealership, we had about 50 miles of range, which that was a little risky, but I did get home with like 10 or 12 miles left. You can see this picture on the screen. It had 30 miles, and that was like with 20 miles to go in the middle of Illinois. So I was a little worried about that. I had no idea if I'd actually make it home from my first trip off that lot. And I've never bought a new car, so usually whenever I buy a used car, which I've only done a few times, I budget, around $500 to $1,000 to fix up the most egregious little things that annoy me. So in my case, one of the most annoying things is this is a used steering wheel I bought from a junkyard. The up button on my car currently is very mushy and hard to press, and so is the right button. If it was just one of the two, that wouldn't be too bad, but the problem is, because these two buttons are so hard to press, if I want to go through the menu and go to something, I have to like go all the way around the horn instead of like going back or going just up one if I miss something. So I bought a new steering wheel because they used to make these things modular. This used to have a screw in the back, and you could pop this off and put it on your steering wheel. And I could have just bought this part, but now this is one unit, which is ridiculous. But I guess it makes them make more money or something, I don't know. These go for $1,500. That heated steering wheel thing, it adds on $500 to this thing. It's ridiculous. So this was like $180 off of a junked car, and the airbag module pops out of it. So I'll do that soon, and I will replace the steering wheel and have a new one. And when you do that, make sure you replace the steering wheel nut. It says in the manual that you should do that, and there's a good reason for it. It's safety. You don't want your steering wheel to pop off while you're driving. That'd be ridiculous. I also added a Carlin Kit 5.0 wireless CarPlay adapter, since the Leaf only supports wired CarPlay by default. And yes, that means that I probably won't ever do that video that I was hinting at on a Pi-powered head unit for my Camry, but it works okay. I'd say with the Carlin kits, they're kind of iffy sometimes. Every once in a while, it just doesn't connect until I turn off the car and walk like 100 feet away and then walk back and turn it on. So sometimes I just don't have CarPlay, and I could plug in my phone. It's more reliable that way. But that requires, messing with cables and stuff, and I just like getting in the car and going. The CarPlay is a neat convenience, but it's not something essential, except for maybe if I'm taking a trip somewhere and I'm in a place that I don't know, it's nice to have the information there. And I think one of the things that going into the Leaf in particular, I didn't even think too much about, because I thought, oh, it's the Leaf. It's one of the oldest electric vehicles, so it must be well supported. There's confusion around charging if you're new to EVs. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is like plugging into a wall outlet. Here in the US, that's 120 volts, and you can get like 11 amps safely. So it's not that much power to charge. Level 2 is 240 volts, and you can get multiple levels of amperage depending on your wiring in your house and the safety and setting up everything the right way. That should be done by a qualified electrician if you want to put one of those circuits in. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then there's level 3 charging. Level 3 is if you're on a road trip and you need to get a lot of charge into the battery fast, you can like throw tons of DC voltage and tons of amps into that thing and just charge it up. And with the Leaf, there's some complications there. And I'm going to talk about those as well. And the Leaf has a J1772 and CHAdeMO, or CHAdeMO, I don't know how you say it. It has those two plugs on the front, and the J1772 is pretty common, and a lot of chargers will have that. A lot of destination chargers, those are usually L2 chargers, and a lot of people's home chargers have that as well. And you can get adapters for that. It's AC power from almost anything to anything, which is nice. But you can't do fast charge with that. CHAdeMO is the fast charge adapter, and that is unfortunately not well supported here in the US anymore. It was deployed a lot more in the past, and there's still some new stations coming online with it, but most of them now, I believe, are using CCS1, and a lot have NACS maybe? Is that the Tesla standard? I don't know. I haven't looked much into the Tesla stuff. Anyway, the point is that CHAdeMO is like the old adapter, and the Leaf has that still. In 2026, that model year, they're going to have the new adapter, but apparently that's been delayed for 10 months anyway. And I don't buy new cars, so it's it'd be 5 or 10 years before I'd even be starting to look at that. But anyway, that brings me to some of the frustrations I've had with the Leaf. First of all, there's no way to open the tailgate from inside the car or even from the key fob. It's only on the tailgate itself. And the only other way to get in the tailgate besides the little button on there is you have to, it tells you in the manual, you have to like climb inside, get a screwdriver and unlatch it like manually. That's just, it seems ridiculous to me. Why isn't there a release like by the driver's side or something like that? The other thing that's missing that I just do not understand at all is a play pause button. Like, why? Why is there no play pause button? Every audio playback device I've ever had, like the iPod, the Walkman, the Discman, every car, every computer, everything has a play button or a play pause button. And right now, the only way that I can pause music if I'm playing it in the car is you have to like go in the touchscreen system and like go around and touch things, and then you can find pause and touch it. Like, I don't want to take my eyes off the road for 10 seconds to try to find where the right menu is to pause something. The other option is you just turn off the audio, but that's not the same thing. Like, I don't get it. Why doesn't the steering wheel have a pause button? Or why doesn't OK pause music when music is playing? I don't understand. Also, the app is, it's not the worst app I've ever used, but it's pretty bad. It feels like 2012 or something. The climate control option, when you touch it and you're like, okay, it did it, but it didn't. It takes like another 10 seconds after that. And then eventually you get a notification that your climate control turned on. This is also using some sort of subscription service that I'm guessing they'll start charging for after a few months or something. I think I have a free trial. Why does it have to have a 4G cellular connection just to do those things? It seems ridiculous to me, and it's very slow. Another software thing that I think is kind of weird is the backup sound on this thing is very loud and annoying. Like, in the morning, if I pull out sometimes and a neighbor's outside, I'll see them like look over like, what's going on over there? Because there's like a sonar pinging sound. Why not just make it the same sound as going forward? Because the going forward makes a sound and it would warn people just the same. I think there was even a report, someone said that the forward sound is good. So, you know, if you're blind, it's all the same to you. It's not, you don't have to worry about whether it's going forwards or backwards. I don't know. Maybe there's some legal reason for it. But the other thing that I don't understand is neutral. Like, cars have neutral so that you can roll. And so that you can roll forwards and backwards and be towed. And it's very important for a car wash. And there's a fun story. The first week I had the car, I believed that to go into neutral, you just pulled the little wand thing to the left. And you'd think that would work based on the little graphic they have. But it didn't. I was in drive and I was like, okay, I want to be in neutral. So I pushed it over to the left. Didn't happen. It said like push brake or something. So I pushed the brake, I did it again, didn't happen. I held down the brake, I did it again. Meanwhile, this guy in the car wash is like, put your car in neutral. Like, it's not that hard, buddy. And So I'm up in the car wash, and all of a sudden, because we're on the like automated thing that pulls your car forward, the car is like whoop bump, because these little things are trying to roll my car forward and the car is still in drive. Eventually, after like 4 of those and the guy getting visibly a bit angry, he said, roll down your window, and I did. And he reached over, he turned off the car, he turned on the car, he did the thing, and he got it in there. I don't even know how he did it because I still don't know exactly how to get the car into neutral all the time. And sometimes I'm trying to get into drive and it goes into neutral. I'm like, well, it would be nice if I was trying to go to neutral and it went into neutral. I don't know, maybe I just have a bad shifter, or maybe I just need to reread the manual for how to put the car in neutral again. The other part of that doesn't make sense is the parking brake. Like, I'm used to, if I want the parking brake on in a car, I put the parking brake on. If I want to take it off, I take it off. In this car, sometimes I go to take off the parking brake and it doesn't do it. So what I've learned is just don't do that and like put it in drive and press the accelerator and then the parking brake goes off automatically. That always works. But pressing the parking brake release button thing doesn't always do it. I don't know why that is. I'm guessing there's some sort of safety interlock thing that, you know, some product designer probably knows better than I do, but it's like in other cars, I want to put on the parking brake and I can do it. You know, why not just give me a manual parking brake? Anyway, I mentioned the CHAdeMO connector earlier, but I think the bigger issue on Leafs up to the 2026 model year, which is not out yet, is they have a battery design that has no built-in cooling. And anyone who's dealt with lithium-ion batteries, I have a bunch, I deal with these things all the time, you know that heat is a major enemy. Cold is also an enemy too. But when you're charging a battery, if it gets too hot, it degrades, the chemistry fails, all kinds of bad things happen. And when you're charging a battery as quickly as possible, like if you're going on a road trip and doing DC fast charge, the battery will heat up, especially on a hot day. And that's bad for battery longevity. So because the Leaf has a non-cooled battery, it can't fast charge as quickly. If you fast charge it and it's hot, that can cause battery degradation. If you drive it too hard or something, that can also cause issues. So all this stuff adds up to it not being the best road tripping EV. It's serviceable, and you know, this thing, I bought this because I want to go to Chicago for VCF Midwest in a couple months, and I wanted to test this out. I actually did test this. I took it to an EV Go station here in St. Louis that has CCS1, that's what this looks like. There's also CCS2, which is a European standard, which looks very similar, but it's not the same. So if you're in the US, don't buy CCS2, buy CCS1. That was very confusing for me, trying to figure out if I need CCS1 or 2, because a lot of things say both. Anyway, this thing is like 10 pounds, probably not 10 pounds, like 6 pounds or something. And it has its own battery inside of it because it needs active electronics to communicate with the CCS1 charger and with your computer in the car. And it converts the DC from here over to these 2 pins. And I don't know, it took me like 4 tries. I actually went back twice in one day to try to get this working because I was getting a little bit annoyed after spending some time trying to get it working and it wasn't. There were like the charge stations were full and I looked like an idiot with my Leaf standing there trying to figure out how to charge the thing. Me, Mr. Tech YouTuber and all that. But anyway, this thing also needs a USB-C cable to charge it, and then you can update the firmware on this thing so it works with more adapters. I mean, it's a neat technical solution, but it's very niche, so it costs $1,000. That's ridiculous. That's another reason why these Leafs go for cheaper, is because you can't use them in the same ways that you can use other EVs with the same type of battery and range. You have to pay $1,000 to get that capability, and this doesn't always work. And there's like 24 vendors for these, so who knows if you're buying the right one? I don't know. There's not a lot of people out there who are going to spend like $20,000 and buy all of the versions of this to find the best one, especially when it's only catering to a very tiny niche of the EV community. Anyway, it's not all bad things. Initially, I was worried that I would need a level 2 charger at home, especially, you know, when I got off the lot and was like, am I going to make it home? I thought I need to have as much charging capability at home as possible. But after a couple weeks driving the car, I realized what Alex said in his Technology Connections video was true.
Need can be a funny word.
I only really need to plug this thing in to my normal wall outlet once or twice a week. That's 120 volts and about 11 amps of charge. And that gives me all the range I need. I bought this Lectron level 1 charger, and I even bought a Grizzly level 2 charger, but for right now I'm just using that Lectron since it doesn't require me to put a new circuit in my garage. But just the fact that I can plug it into a standard wall outlet and get all the range I need is pretty cool. Not everybody's going to drive the same way that I do. If you need to drive 200 miles a day, that's a lot different than my case, which is, a few miles a day, maybe 20 or 30 if I'm going somewhere further away, or every once in a while I go 50 or 60 miles in a day if I'm going on a trip up to my parents or taking the kids out to something. But it's all that I need. Another thing that I love is one-pedal driving. This is actually the main reason that I wanted to get an EV after I made the terrible decision to test drive a Tesla in 2012 with a friend. We were just doing it for fun because the Tesla was a new thing at the time, and there was a Tesla dealership somewhere nearby where we were doing some work. And one-pedal driving is you basically push the pedal down and the car goes, and when you release, the car slows down. So you control the car's movement with one foot. And for me, it makes it feel like I'm connected to the car. And with an electric motor, when you push down, you start moving. There's no lag, there's no spool up for the engine. You don't have to get into a particular rev range for it to be really fast or anything. Once in a while, it does do weird things, like on my Leaf. I don't know if this is with other EVs too or just the Leaf, but sometimes like when I let off the accelerator, it doesn't go into regen where it uses the motors to slow down the car and recharge the battery at the same time. And when it's not using regen, it's a different kind of ramp down, so you don't feel that same connection, because it's like I'm used to the regen, so I'm used to letting off and I slow down a certain amount. And when that doesn't happen, it kind of throws me off. And I initially also was worried when I get back into our minivan, the family car that we have, because when you have a bunch of kids, you need a minivan. And hot take, minivans are way more awesome than trucks for anyone with a bunch of kids and who needs the ability to move stuff around. But anyway, I was worried that when I got back in the minivan, my foot would just not know what to do or something, but it's my brain just does a different thing in the minivan. I'm used to the way a gas car works, and that's how that works. It's not a big deal. I can go between the two. One nice thing on the Leaf is there's a button. You just press the button and it'll turn off the one-pedal driving and act like a gas car with kind of the rolling and the coasting and all that kind of stuff. So if you have somebody who's not used to an EV hop in the car, they can do that and press the button, and then it's just like a gas car, and they're a little less put off. But it only took me like 10 minutes to get used to the one-pedal driving, and I love it. Another thing that's nice on the Leaf, and this is a trend in cars that one reason why I have not been too excited about getting a newer car, is the Leaf has HVAC controls, like buttons you press to turn up and down the fan speed and the temperature and turn it on and off. I love that. Like, buttons are good. A car without button controls just doesn't feel good. I don't understand it. Like I said, that play button, like trying to find the play button is dumb. There should be a physical play button somewhere, and there isn't. Anyway, I'm glad that there's physical HVAC controls. It'd be ridiculous to try to like turn down the AC on a touchscreen. I just don't understand how that's even useful to people. Another thing I love is the torque and responsiveness. Like I said, that feeling of connection to the car. But the torque of an electric vehicle is something that you just have to experience by test driving one at some point. Or having, if you have a friend that has an EV, hop in the EV and tell them to press down on the gas pedal or the accelerator. It's funny, my 4-year-old now, when we got the car, I took the kids out and I showed them on a safe road and not going over the speed limit ever, but I showed them how you can accelerate, and it's very zippy. And now my 4-year-old, every time she gets in my car, she wants to go in my car more often now. She says, "Go fast, go fast." And it's like, we can't do that all the time, especially not when it's not safe and when we're in a neighborhood or in a school zone especially. Another thing that's nice is the maintenance should be easier. I used to do all my own oil changes and all my own maintenance and all that stuff. There is still some maintenance, but there's a lot less that you need to do. You don't have to change the oil as frequently. The brake wear should be a lot less, but there is some maintenance, and like there are some things that some people that buy EVs probably don't do that they should, like use their brakes, because otherwise they can rust out and not work as well. And when you actually need your brakes, you need them to work. And especially with my daughter's need for speed, I'm guessing that my EV's tires will probably need to be replaced a little bit more frequently. When you have the ability to accelerate quickly, sometimes when I'm going to get over, I kind of jump and then get over now instead of slowly speeding up in my Camry and then slowly getting over. So I'm guessing that my tires won't wear quite as well, and I think the car is even heavier than my old Camry, so it's a trade-off, but one that I like because most of the annoying maintenance stuff seems like it's not going to be as frequent. Now, the Leaf is one of the cheapest EVs, but there are some downsides to EVs. By no means is the Leaf a cheap car. It might be a cheap EV, but it's not a cheap car. I could have gotten a gas-powered car with the same features as my Leaf and a lot cheaper. But a lot of people buy EVs on like leases, or they're looking at monthly payments and things. And EVs, regardless of how you buy it, a lot of people just don't have the money to really get into it. And things like needing a power plug to charge it, it's still not good for a lot of people who need a car to buy an EV. It just won't fit their lifestyle. It might be too expensive, or it might have some requirements that just can't be met. And I know some EV folks might crucify me in the comments for saying this, but I was pretty nervous I'd be stranded the first time I took a trip home. You can't just pop into any gas station. There is some range anxiety. If I was almost empty, I could just pop off the highway and get into a gas station almost anywhere in the US. In my neighborhood, there's even like 2 gas stations in the, say what you will about gas and petroleum and fossil fuels and all that. But it is very convenient to have a gas car. You don't ever have to worry like, oh man, I'm on like 10% and I might not make it home. If you have that situation in an EV, you might have to beg somebody to get to a charger. And if you don't have the cable in your car, you have to find someone with a cable to charge your car as well. And there's just, at least in St. Louis, there's not chargers everywhere. There's a good number. If you go on PlugShare, there's probably like 40 or 50 charge stations. Within 5 or 10 miles, there's probably one in any given point in the metro area. But if I was to go out to a rural friend's house, which I do a couple times a year, there's not going to be a charger within like 10 or 20 miles. And if I don't plan for that, then I could get stranded, and that would not be wonderful. And so, yeah, there is a little range anxiety with a car that has 200 and something miles of range, probably even with more miles of range on some cars. You have to think about it a little bit more than you do for a gas car. So, argue with me in the comments about that, but I still have a little bit of that range anxiety. And when I'm planning out my week, I do think a little bit about, do I need a full charge at any point this week? And then I have to charge that way. But again, it's very convenient. I just plug it in at my house. Not that hard. What is hard, and this is coming from somebody who's pretty technical, is the lack of standardization and charging confusion for a first-time EV buyer. Like, I went into this thinking I knew a lot, but after I got the Leaf and got home, I was like, okay, I'm going to plan out this trip. What do I need to do to make sure I can get there without spending 6 hours at a place doing a destination charger on the way to a trip where it's not my destination? For level 3 DC fast charging, the Leaf has a CHAdeMO port. Tesla's and many newer EVs have NACS, I think. I'm not 100% sure on all these things. Then there's also CCS1 and CCS2, and charging stations all around the US and in Europe and other parts of the world. They're run by multiple vendors with multiple apps and different payment methods. Some of them require an app, some of them you can just pay at the pump or whatever it is. It's not like gas stations. Like, when I go to a Shell or a BP or a Buc-ee's or whatever it is, I just go up to it and I swipe my card, or you can use your watch nowadays, and I pull off the pump and I stick it in my car and I fill up. That's easy. With electric, you have to know which connectors the station has. You have to know whether the stations are empty or not, and it's not like a gas station where you just get in line and it'll be empty in 30 seconds to 2 minutes. There might be a 30-minute wait or an hour wait. That's kind of crazy. And then on top of all that, you also have to make sure that you have the app with that company, or get lucky and they can take your charge card at the pump there. And you have to make sure that that company has not blacklisted your vehicle, because I found out that some of these things say like, no, Leafs can't charge here, like Tesla's stations. They're not officially supported. So it's complicated. And some dealerships even have chargers, but a lot of them, they A, don't know how to use them or turn them on. B, sometimes they have like their own cars charging on them. So it's complicated. All these charging standards and the way you charge and all that. Apps like PlugShare help a lot, but it still is a lot different than with gas. And I forgot to mention too, even with level 1 and level 2 charging, like at home, some cars use J1772, some use NACS, and I have an adapter between the two, I think. But then the wall charging units themselves, they're kind of all over the board. I have seen some of these level 1 chargers that will draw 16 amps. Now in the US, we have different types of normal 120 volt circuits. We usually have either 15 amp or 20 amp circuits. And a lot of people just have 15 amp circuits. In my garage, they're all 15 amps because my house was built in like the 1980s. So if you're pulling 16 amps over a 15 amp circuit, there are parts of that circuit, whether it be the cable or the circuit breaker or the actual outlet, that aren't rated for that, and they can heat up and catch fire. So there's a lot of things like that that you have to do extra research just to make sure you're not going to overload something and break something. And also for level 2 chargers, if you're going to do your own, you can put in different types of cable, different gauges of cable, aluminum or copper, different circuit breakers and things like that. And if you do it the wrong way, again, you can cause a fire. So it's important to know the electrical code, know the equipment you're using, and make sure you're getting reputable stuff. And it's not always that easy to get the right information, especially nowadays with AI results and stuff. Like, a lot of people I don't think will get the right information about what amperages they can run, what gauge of wire they should use, and all that kind of stuff, which is why I would recommend most people, if you're going to do a level 2 charger, call an electrician. Or even if you're going to do level 1 charging, get an electrician to check it out, because it's better to be safe than to have a fire in your garage and your EV blows up. Now, I'm still excited about driving this car. I think for me, driving less than 100 miles a week, it is a perfect fit. But I don't think EVs are for everyone. There's too many gotchas still, especially here in the US. Like I said earlier though, I'm documenting my entire journey with this car on my electric car GitHub repo, and I'll link to it below. Until next time, I'm Jeff Geerling.